chat. I will be answering them throughout the process. So please feel free. We have Charles in here who is going to be monitoring any questions that are coming through and making sure that I am responding to them. Hey, Charles. This one's going to be a really fun session. This is something that I have spent a lot of time working on and perfecting. And I think a lot of the core basic principles of just getting this idea of how do you take one long form piece of content and repurposing it into additional material. I think like we spend a lot of time and it feels like you're on a constant hamster flywheel of producing a lot of content, and that pressure is only increased with AI. And so what we do, in this idea of systems thinking and content operations is how are we more process oriented or systems thinking with our content production, so we're not working harder, we're working smarter, as that saying goes. Anyway, enough of that. Let's jump in. A lot of these principles, actually, all of these principles, can be replicated with pretty much any AI tool of your choice. I personally use Relay. I think it is you know, kind of the most user friendly and still have the most advanced options as compared to, like N8N or some of these others you might have seen that are a little bit more advanced and more technical. I think this has a really good balance. So that's what we use here. But of course, the same kind of logic and principles can work for, whatever tool you're comfortable with. It's really not about the tool. It's about, what you do with it. All right. So first I want to show you how, kind of what a end state could be. We won't go through this advanced one today. But you see, I have my V2 webinar post production workflow, 27 steps. Obviously, a little bit more on the extreme end. And, by no means do you feel like you need to, create something of this level of complexity on your first run. I think the best workflows really function as just 2 to 3 steps. But essentially, what we have on this workflow, what's happening is it's looking at my YouTube channel to see anytime a new video is uploaded. It goes through and it pulls its transcript. It goes and looks in our database of the webinars that we've done to find the matching pair. It does this matching step. We're using ChatGPT to find the event ID and come up with some really basic information, right? This is kind of like metadata to capture of the workflow: title, description, TLDR, quotes that came from it. And this is actually used in future steps, because from this workflow, we're creating a article that lives on my website. We're creating a landing page for the webinar. We're creating a follow-up email thanking people for everyone who joined the webinar. We're creating a LinkedIn post for my company page. We're creating a LinkedIn post for me personally. We're coming up with a playbook so I can use that as a lead magnet for future webinars. And then we're coming up with a few other ideas for future content. So from this one workflow, we're getting, I think that was like 8 or 9 derivative pieces of content. And of course, you could scale that up. Maybe you want to reference this webinar, 2 times in the future or something. So we're getting a lot of really strong content. And again, this idea of what is one webinar I can do, today's session, one webinar, it will take me 45 minutes and I get all of this really great content out of it. And we can repurpose that multiple different times. So you can see we're using different models. We're using some web scraping steps. And given the time, I say we just go and dive into it. Please, if you have any questions or anything specific you want me to cover today, drop it in the chat. But we'll come in here and we will build a new workflow. A Relay is really great. You can see all the runs that I'm doing. You can see all my agents up here. And we will go and dive into building a new workflow. So this is going to be, always want to come in a name and say webinar repurposing, and I'm just going to say live build. So before building any workflow, you want to think of two things. What are my inputs and where are they coming from? And what is my desired output? Now that applies to the beginning of the workflow and the end of the workflow, but it also applies to each progressive step. So this workflow is taking one webinar and repurposing it to multiple things. So what does that mean? Well, we have our webinar, which means we will have a video file at the end. So my main input is going to be a transcript. Now, where is this transcript coming from? Well, at the end of your webinar, if you record it on Zoom or something like that, you can just copy and paste the transcript in, which would be a manual text input. But the purpose and the value of AI is that it happens autonomously. So when defining our trigger, we want to come in here. We have a bunch of different options. And the one I used in my example, which I will use here again, is YouTube. Because, if we think through the process here, we host the webinar, we do a little bit of video editing, and then we're left with this video file. So the main trigger to trigger all the other post-production workflow needs to come from that video. That is the thing that we are dependent on before we can do the rest of the things. And so for us, the trigger of having a new video posted to channel was the perfect trigger for us. So what you want to do is you want to pull up your YouTube and we say, okay, you're going to look for any time a new video is posted to the channel. And then what's nice is we can do a filter. So we post YouTube shorts, which also will be shown up here. What we've done is we've embedded a keyword in our description to to mark and note which ones are the long form videos versus the not. That might be a little bit over explanation, but essentially we only want to run this workflow when it's a full hour long webinar versus, the 30-second clip of the webinar that we already did. So now that we have our trigger defined, we're going to come over here to the Relay app assistant and we are going to map out in its entirety what we want this workflow to do. I always do this as a starting foundation, and it's no different than if you had hired a new full-time employee and you were walking them through the process of, hey, we do these webinars, and after each webinar, these are the steps we need to complete for the project to be done. So back to our idea of our inputs, we're going to say, you are acting as a webinar repurposing agent. I will give you a transcript from YouTube, and the final output needs to be we'll start with, I think we'll do an article and we'll do a LinkedIn post, or like a recap article and then a LinkedIn post for this, but you can see, you can expand it to newsletter and social posts and whatnot. And the final output needs to be a article that recaps the key takeaways and a LinkedIn post to share on our company page that explains what we went over, why it's valuable, and have a CTA to watch the full webinar. Now, what I like to do is let this run and just let it do a first pass. What I'm hoping to accomplish in this is just get the bones. This Relay app assistant, or if you're using another tool, is usually pretty good at getting kind of the core steps needed to determine what's needed first, and then we'll go back and we'll refine. You can see it's doing its thing. And what's nice is it starts asking some follow-up questions to do what it is It needs to do better. So which LinkedIn organization page should I post to? I actually don't know if I've attached. Oh, it is Catalyst content. Great. It's already connected here. And let's see if it needs anything else. Nope, it's going to finish working. You can see it's working. It's magic here. Cool. So it has now done a first pass of what I've asked it to do. Let's go through this together. The trigger will check every 15 minutes. It will look for a new video posted on a channel. I've already told it, my channel. It then has step 2, which looks like it's using a ChatGPT model to generate the article recap. Then it's using Claude to generate a LinkedIn post. And then it has a step to actually post that to my company page. Now, let's go and look at the prompts. I get a lot of question about prompting. How do you prompt properly? The nice thing and my secret is I don't spend a whole lot of time prompting. I usually rely on the AI assistant to kind of give me a first pass and then I tweak it where needed. Obviously, the more context you give in that initial step, it's going to output a lot better. So it's saying you're a content strategist, you have a transcript, you're going to write the comprehensive article with key takeaways, have compelling headline, engaging intro, break down key takeaways. Now, for example's sake, I'm obviously just kind of letting it go with whatever direction it wants to go. What I recommend here is if you already have a company and you're already doing webinars and someone is manually writing these recap articles already, take one of those as an example. Or maybe you haven't yet. I would take the time to manually write out what you think best in class is. Because then we can feed that into here and use that as an outline or a structure for it to follow in the future. This is just the same as if you had hired a new content marketing manager or a marketing intern, and you say, hey, every week we write this type of article. Go look at how we've done it previously to learn how to do it. So if you have a reference or you have an example to share with it, we highly recommend feeding that in to create a structure because, it did its best to understand what a good structure might be. But of course, your idea of good is better than AI. Next, we are writing LinkedIn post. And so you see it's using Claude Sonnet 4.6. Claude is much better at writing tasks, I personally think, especially for short form. And so that's why it's using Claude here. And you can see it's giving it, again, some basic outline structure. Same thing. If you write a LinkedIn post the same way every time you post a webinar from your company page, give it that as an example. And then it has a step to post to Catalyst content, our company page, with the commentary here. Now, one thing I did notice is we have new video posted to channel, but we don't actually have a step that is extracting the transcript. So that's going to be a problem because these steps are pulling in information about the YouTube video, but they're not pulling in the transcript in entirety. And so we need to go and manually add that step. Now you could tell the chatbot like, hey, I noticed there's no transcript. We need to add that as a step, don't we? And it would make the correction. But I think it's just going to be a little bit quicker to do this. When adding a step, you see the input it needs is a URL. Again, we're always thinking in context of what are the inputs and what are the outputs needed. So to get the output of a transcript, we need the input of a URL. And because step 1 is pulling recent YouTube videos, we're going to go to step 1, find the YouTube video, and come here and pull the URL of the video. Now, it's inputting the URL and it's outputting the transcript. And so we want to make sure that output is being fed into this step, right? The input to create the article recap is the full transcript. So we want to pull data from previous steps, come here to transcript and hit select. And the same thing for the LinkedIn posts. And what's nice is I'm going to give it two inputs. I'm going to give it the full raw transcript, but I'm also going to give it the article recap. Now, we might be able to get away with just giving it the article recap because it's going to be just a shortened version in reality, but we'll give it both as full context. I'm going to run a test run. So, like any new hire, you give them direction, you set them off, you say like, hey, these are the things that we need, and they go and do a first draft. We're going to do that as a test run. It's very same. We published this, last week we had a workshop about building a newsletter. Go and watch the recording on YouTube if you want to learn about how to build an effective newsletter. But I am going to run this as a test because essentially what I want to know is like, all right, what is it getting right and what is it getting wrong? As it runs through this test, I'm actually going to go to our LinkedIn page and pull up a reference to how we post our newsletters. So we can give that as a reference. I'm about to hit 16,000 followers. If anyone wants to be my last follower to hit 16, I'd be greatly appreciated. Actually, if you do and you drop in the chat, I'll send you something. That's pretty cool. Okay. On the Catalyst content page, you can see every week we post our webinar recaps, and we do it as a pretty standard structure. So I'm just going to come in here and copy this, and we're going to come back and let's take a look at how this is being output. We have a good compelling title, giving an intro about newsletters, calling out who I did the session with, compelling first section, why AI isn't the best for a newsletter. I would go through and read this more in depth, but generally it's pretty good. We'll go and take a look at the LinkedIn post again, reading through, figuring out what I do like and what I don't like. And guess what? I think this actually just posted. So we'll go over here and we'll check out the post. There we go. It's live. So you can see this is truly fully autonomous. I'm going to delete this because we're going to give it some feedback first. But what I'm going to do is actually just delete this for now. We know it works. So we'll do it once we've got it dialed in. I like to do a few rounds of tests before, getting it to a final end state. So for the LinkedIn post, I'm going to say for the LinkedIn post, follow the structure of how we typically format this type of post. I'm going to give you an example here. And I'm just pasting in, you can't really see it, but I'm just pasting in what I copied from my LinkedIn that has already been published. Please, guys, feel free, ask some questions. Really want to help answer anything that you guys might be stuck on, or if there's anything specific I could talk about. This is going to go in and make some adjustments. You can see it's coming in here and adding some more specific details like format to follow. I'm going to delete this full stop. I don't think I really like that in actuality. Change the bullets just so it stays consistent. Nice. Added some tone and rule based off of this. And sure, I'm okay with the little fire emoji. It's giving some formatting. That's great. I'm going to hit done. And then we want to make some adjustments to the article. So a few things. Let's go to Catalyst and we can see the articles that we've posted before. Here's one on the lead magnet machine. You can see we also have a structure for how we post these. So, a little secret, this is written by AI. And we follow the same structure, which is essentially a compelling opening paragraph. And then we extract the key takeaways. I think we have it prompting to look between 5 to 10 key takeaways, as well as including key quotes. By the way, if you want specific, actionable insights twice a week, We have a newsletter here that you can sign up for. Uh, it's really valuable. I write them, go very in depth into specific content marketing rules as well as AI systems. So definitely recommend that. But I'm going to take this and copy. Again, it's always best if we can give it a specific example of what we want it to be. Otherwise, AI kind of just wants to keep going and going, and it gets a little rambunctious after a certain amount of time. All right. For step 3, I want to follow the same structure we typically follow for these recap articles. I'm going to give you an example below and make sure we mimic it for new articles. Cool. Paste it in, hit enter. You can see it's taking all of that information, and we'll see it pop up here in a second, making those adjustments. So again, figuring out what those inputs are, what we want it to be, having it be a test run, and then going through and making minor adjustments based off of what we saw from its first output, giving it feedback, just like an employee. Cool. It updated it. It said, here's a structure, conversational tone, guest name, great. Key takeaways. Each takeaway has a bold, short title. It gave an example, best practices, tones and rule. Awesome. Another thing that you can do is attach a file from the knowledge base. I'm going to run a test run on this. So we have something to talk about. But then I will go back and I will talk about adding a knowledge base file. This is great. And you can see it's giving some writing instructions based off of what it saw. So conversational and direct, no formal or corporate language, short sentences, short paragraphs. Great. That's a really good start. That's probably 9 times out of 10, just enough for what we're trying to accomplish. But sometimes people have very specific tonality in their writing, and we want to replicate that. So, what you can do is you can actually attach a longer writing style document to the prompt. And so, as it's doing its writing, it's referencing that external document as additional context and information to make the output better. So, I'm going to attach my Will Leatherman writing style, and I'm going to say, use the writing style attached for the article. Grammar there isn't perfect, but AI is pretty good at understanding. So, what it's going to do is it's going to make a modification to, by Mona, it's making a modification to the prompt to incorporate my Will Leatherman writing style. I'm just going to tell it which one it needs to pull because I think it's trying to find something else, but maybe it's not recognizing that I've already attached this here. There you go. Cool. Um, we've added this in here, but it doesn't look like it added a specific line to it. I think it would be fine, but what I'm going to do just to be safe is say, use the writing style attached. And maybe I can even come in here. Maybe I don't need to reference it. I'm just going to say use the writing style attached. Great. And I'm going to run another test run and see how I'm doing a lot of iterations of this to get it dialed in to see how we really like it. As this runs, I'm going to go and we can look at the output of the previous one. So, getting a little computer lag here. Interesting. I don't seem to be getting the. Here it is. Okay. Obviously, this isn't the most ideal way to proofread it. But you can see that we actually got this pretty solid. We now have the sections. It's identified the 5 to 9 takeaways, key best practices in learning, do homework first. Cool. This is awesome. Charles, give us a thumbs up if you think that's post worthy. Nice. And here we can see the output of the LinkedIn post. This is great. Nice. So what I would do is just, make sure I'm happy about it and then go in and make modifications. This other test run finished so we can come in here and see the output. This is the one that we attached my writing style to, and you can see it's just using a little bit more of like what I've prompted that writing style to look like and sound like, to use a little bit more casual tone, using the words like they drop by to walk us through how she builds newsletters, something I use in my writing a lot. And so you can just make it feel a little bit more personalized and specific to your writing style. This looks great. Perfect. So in 30 minutes or less, we've gotten a pretty robust way to take a YouTube video and transcribe it into two different assets. And then you can keep going on this. I mean, again, as you saw on our other one, um, we're having it create 40 pieces of content from this one webinar. You can do things like identify moments that should be segmented into short social video clips and send them to your editor. You can have it do a newsletter now and then a newsletter that gets published 3 months from now. There's different ways to make sure that you're extending the shelf life of this one long form piece of content that you're producing and use it to format into whatever way you need it. You can even have it go and post directly to your newsletter platform. What I like to do is have it send a message to Slack to get approval. So I'm going to send this to our marketing channel. And we're going to say, hey, we have a LinkedIn post ready to be approved. Charles, can you take a look and get it posted on our website? And I'll link to, what you can do is you can paste in the whole output. And so then that will be sent automatically to our marketing channel. He'll give the approval, get it up on the website. That's awesome. I do think like Webflow, you can publish right to Webflow. That's awesome. So like it doesn't even need that intermediary step. It can just go into your drafts on Webflow. I think Framer is adding that feature soon. I hope we use Framer. But I'm going to add back the LinkedIn step and say, let's just get this posted on LinkedIn. You can see we have all these other steps. You can see what's nice is I just kind of explore what each of these tools has access to, but we are creating a post for an organization. Come in here, let's select Catalyst. The commentary is outbound or this output LinkedIn post. We do want to include an image. This is kind of a fun, in our bonus time, please ask some questions so I'm not just ranting at you guys. But I will show you this fun little extra step in the workflow. Because images do better on LinkedIn when you post them, I want to attach a file. And it would be really cool if it was the thumbnail of the YouTube video. And so what we want to do is add a step that pulls the thumbnail from the YouTube video and attaches it to the LinkedIn post. And we'll let that go. All right. Any questions while we are waiting for the AI to do my work for me? All right. Cool. Well, that just ran. And what you can see is it added this step. And it's downloading the YouTube thumbnail. It's pulling the file from the YouTube link. It's saving it as thumbnail JPEG. And then it has gone ahead and attached it as this post. And now if everything works well, start run for selected YouTube video. Boom. When I found the file, it's going to create this article recap in my tone of voice because we have that tone of voice document attached. And then it will create a LinkedIn post. It will send that message to Charles in Slack. Charles, you got to give us a thumbs up if you receive that. He'll get notified too because we tagged him, which is cool. And then it will go and it will post it to LinkedIn. All right, everyone. How are we doing on questions? Is this making sense? Any specific things you want to ask? Guy Addison, you said you were going to interact. I got questions. While we're waiting, and because no one's asking questions, I will use this time to plug. Follow me on LinkedIn. Again, if you end up being my 16,000 follower, that's cool. I will send you something. I would love for that to happen. And again, our weekly newsletters, sending them out. You can go find us on Beehive. You can also go to the Catalyst website. Come check us out if you just go to resources and go to weekly webinars or go to newsletter. You can subscribe. We also have this 90-day founder-led content playbook. How to build a $10 million go-to-market content engine. We built this in partnership with HeyReach, Valet, and SalesForge. If you click it, free download, super in-depth guide, a lot of great learnings here. All right. This workflow is done. Awesome. Let's see if it is live. Let's go back to the Catalyst page. Look at that. Look at that. There we go. That's a pretty solid LinkedIn post. And guess what? That being posted versus me completely forgetting and never to post it is way better. And maybe, maybe I refine it a little bit and maybe, there we go. Thanks, Charles. And maybe we dial it in a little bit more. But I now have this autonomous agent that I can just go on and I never have to think about posting on my company page ever again. As long as we're consistently publishing to YouTube, I will continuously and consistently be publishing to LinkedIn. It's as simple as that. And there's so many ways you can build on it, which I hope I've stressed. This is really just the foundation. I want to show you guys how simple it is to get such a quick win. And there you go. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining today. We do these webinars every week. Sometimes it's me walking through a workflow like this. Sometimes we have a guest on, like last week we had Victoria on talking about newsletters. We had Ruz on 2 weeks ago talking about lead magnets. Anything that can help you become a better AI user and a better content engineer. We teach it here every week. Subscribe to the newsletter. Ask me some questions on LinkedIn. Thank you guys so much and see you guys next week.